Would we see the game return at the Clash as everyone expected? Were there any new champions crowned last night? Did the Clash just absolutely suck? We're going to answer these questions as WGS-TV reviews WWE Clash of Champions 2016. Hey YouTube, are you ready for your hot tag? Because if yours, definitely. Time to warp.
Hi, this is Buster Graham and you're watching WGS-TV.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. I am your friendly neighborhood Wrestle Gamer, and returning back to WGS-TV, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, the hardcore one himself, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Well, Bill, I'm doing all right, although last night I have to admit that I had to do some painkillers just to watch that show because it was giving me a massive headache. With the exception of a match or two.
When SmackDown had their first branded pay-per-view with Backlash, it really didn't stand out much as a show, so going into WWE Clash of Champions last night, I didn't expect much out of the rebranded WCW show. One thing I said on Sports Entertainment Tonight last week, that Triple H's appearance was highly probable due to the pending storyline of Rollins and Triple H coming. That's probably one of the reasons why the main event last night was so lackluster, but would the whole card suffer for it? Let's talk about Clash of Champions. Kickoff match. It was Nia Jax and Alicia Fox. This was a glorified Raw squash match. Nothing more, nothing less, my personal opinion. Now, during the hangout last night, Andy, aka the SOB on HWR, pointed out Alicia during the corner spot was yelling out to Nia Jax to kick her, so more than likely they had a conversation about that spot when they made their way to the back. The finish of this match was Nia hitting the Samoan slam on Alicia to pick up the win, but like I said earlier, Rick, this is just a glorified Raw squash match.
You know, and I agree with that. And with the, all the new stuff that they've been adding on, it's you know, look at it this way: when they used to have the kickoff shows back, I'll say 25, 30 years ago, it was a 15-minute kickoff show where they pretty much gave a quick series of the matches and maybe and then that one bonus match. Then went it up to 30 minutes. Same pretty much thing, and now they have an hour where they have to have 4 people sitting at a table talking about these matches and showing vignettes that you're going to see before the match actually happens. So you're seeing the same vignette twice. And I have yet to figure that out. And the Nia Jax squash match it should not have even been part of the kickoff, or they should have added an extra match. Because to me, it wasn't worth my time.
Opening match of the Clash would be for the Raw Tag Team Championship, as the New Day would defend their championships against Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson. I think a lot of people were anticipating New Day to drop their titles to Gallows and Anderson, but the New Day has become extremely marketable, especially since now they have a new merchandise to represent their Who shtick as part of their gimmick. And we'll actually give some props to Michael Cole for once for actually calling the New Day's finisher the Midnight Hour, as opposed to just saying a double team move. The New Day retained the Raw Tag Team Championship. So, Rick, the question I have for you now is, what's next to the New Day in the Tag Team Championships? Where do they go with them from here?
Oh, that's an easy question. First off, if you look at the way they've, especially Michael Cole, because he's notorious for this, where he'll count the amount of days somebody's had a title. That usually leads me to believe 9 out of 10 times that person or persons are going to break the previous record. So I knew right off the head that I said, as much as I think that Anderson and Gallows will be champions sometime down in the future, but until New Day breaks whatever record they're looking for, they're going to hold the titles. Make no mistake about that.
Up next, the WWE Cruiserweight Championship on the line as T.J. Perkins defended the championship against the Brian Kendrick. First thing I want to bring up is T.J. Perkins' new entrance theme. It's kind of like a revamped Mega Man theme. I don't know if anybody caught that, but it was really, really cool. Overall, the match was solid, but there were a few botches. But when you have a worker like Perkins in the ring who likes to use high energy spot monkey type of spots, it's honestly to be expected. Going into this match, my thinking was that they were going to have Perkins drop the title to Kendrick, but it went the other way around, and Perkins showed some good submission moves. But again, Andy in the Hangout last night pointed out on one submission spot, Perkins released the hold before Kendrick grabbed the bottom rope. The finish of the match was Perkins locking in the knee lock on Kendrick to pick up the win. The headbutt after the match, Rick, would lead me to believe that a rematch would be coming, if not on Raw, then possibly maybe at the next pay-per-view.
Absolutely, and as you said before, there was a lot of botches, and when Perkins, as you said, released it, when Kendrick was literally, 2 arm reaches away, it just looked bad. And don't get me wrong, I am a fan of TJ Perkins. I believe he's a great wrestler. Same thing with Brian Kendrick. Now, as far as the post-match stuff, you knew that a double cross was happening. You were waiting for it. Because he held his hand out, he kind of looked up all frustrated, pissed off. He gets up, shakes hands, and it's like, okay, when's it coming? It's coming. Oh, there it is. And that's how predictable sometimes it is. But when you've watched wrestling long enough, you can tell when that double cross is coming. Don't want to get off too much of a track here, but if you look back at the Shield, when Seth Rollins betrayed the Shield, you knew he was double crossing. And me and Joe were watching it, and Joe goes, once he picked up the chair, he goes, oh shit, he's turning. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, there it was. But anyways.
Up next was the final match in the Best of 7 series as Sheamus took on Cesaro. Another good one from them, but there are a couple of spots to mention here. One was Cesaro's dive over the top rope and that really awkward landing. It was like the Undertaker's spot from WrestleMania 25. And from the way it looked, either Cesaro injured himself from it, or it was a work and Cesaro sold it like a champ. The finish was done in a very similar way. Cesaro clotheslined Sheamus over the guardrail, and it was either a plant, a fan, or a security guard, but Sheamus's foot caught him on the head on the way over. Both men were down, and noticeably Cesaro was having issues, so I believe they had Sheamus also sell an injury so the ref could call the match. Last thing I want to bring up about this is Cesaro's right arm, Rick. It was just dangling by his side after the bounce, so something looked to be wrong with his arm.
I agree with you. You gotta wonder if something was teared or pulled. I mean, Cesaro has suffered several injuries in his short time in the WWE. Now, somebody say, well, he's been in there for 7 or 8 years, and even still, in that short amount of time, he's had a significant amount of injuries. As far as that spot, like we said, with the big boot to a fan or whatever, I hope it's a plant, which I don't think it is, and I'm hoping it's security. Because if that's a fan, holy shit, that's a lawsuit that WWE wants to avoid.
Yeah, because if anything, it looked extremely accidental, because you can't really plan for when you're going over the top rope if one of your parts of your body is going to come down on the top of a guy's head.
Exactly.
Next, it was Sami Zayn taking on Chris Jericho. Jericho and Zayn have had some great matches in the past, and this one was a good one. A spot worth mentioning, however, about this match was the corner-to-corner tornado DDT. When Jericho went to catch him through the ropes for the spot, it appeared that Jericho lost his balance, went down to one knee during the catch, so it really looked awkward. Jericho's Codebreaker, it looked like Zayn didn't go down at the right time, but I might have said that wrong, but it looked like instead of going face first down solidly with his whole body, it kind of looked like he went down on his side. Jericho picked up the win here, but again, so far it almost seems to be a night of botches, Rick, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the people who do Botchamania, they're just getting off on this whole entire show. It's like they could do a whole episode on just this pay-per-view alone. And when you mentioned Jericho, when he did the Codebreaker, it looked like it more hit his sternum as opposed to his face, where Jericho has a tendency, if you watch very closely, he makes sure that you don't actually connect, or it's it looked, when he hit the sternum, it looked like he hit him flush. And usually the Codebreaker, Jericho, is really good. Very rarely do we see that happen.
Up next, the Raw Women's Championship on the line as Charlotte defended her title against Sasha Banks and Bayley. As far as I'm concerned, this match was worked a lot better than what Charlotte and Sasha Banks did at SummerSlam. For starters, no one botched a move, and no one tried to break Sasha's neck, which is something that nearly happened at SummerSlam. All three women, in my personal opinion, worked a solid match, so my hat's off to them. Charlotte's big boot finish was something that was introduced on Raw this past week, so seeing it here wasn't that much of a surprise. But what I want to know, Rick, is whether or not that the big boot will be used more as a finisher in Charlotte's moveset.
Stuff like that, you gotta really look at it the right way. Now, we see in the past, we've seen several wrestlers where they're going to do certain moves. I'll use Roman Reigns as an example. The Superman punch is a finisher where it gets a 3 count. Now it seems to be more of a signature where you know he's going to hit, but when it comes to the matches, when he's facing some of the big names, they're always going to kick out. It's not even a question. So now his spear is his finishing move. I think what Charlotte's trying to do is she's trying to use the big boot, so to speak, in her wheelhouse. And that's something we might see her get a few wins, but eventually over time we're going to see her where she's going to go back to either the natural selection or the figure eight.
Up next was the United States Championship on the line as Rusev defended the championship against Roman Reigns. Why did Lana look like she was dressed for a funeral in all black? She still looked hot though. However, as this match progressed, we had a let's just say a very interesting conversation in the Hangout and the chat with users Eric C., Terry Bear, and Mofo Fugly 82. If you want to know the subject matter of said conversation, you'll have to go back and watch the Hangout. Now, when Lana got thrown out of the match, my interest in that match dropped. Because, as I've said in the past, before, Lana's the only reason why I tolerate Rusev in the WWE, regardless of what he's doing. Now, Rick, am I shocked to see Rusev drop the title to Roman Reigns? Not really, so expect to see the IWC, Rick, lose their shit about this.
Again, we've seen a lot of fans, a lot of haters don't like Roman Reigns because for a long time he was being pushed as, quote-unquote, the next John Cena. And, you're going to have, there's going to be haters for any wrestler. Now, you, for example, does not like Brock Lesnar, so when the haters, it's just like, it's a personal opinion. As far as Roman Reigns winning the U.S. title, that was obvious. That was my pick. And which means that this feud is going to go on one more time because Rusev has his traditional rematch clause. So whether it's going to end there, which I hope, or if it's going to continue because there was a short break in the feud. I think it was because that Rusev... Is it the third marriage now that they've had? Because they got married like early in 2016. They celebrated, and it all seemed to all fall apart. So I'm that's where I kind of lost things there as far as the feud goes. But I'm hoping the rematch title will happen tonight on Raw, and that'll be it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. But anyway, up next was the main event, the WWE Universal Championship on the line as Kevin Owens defended the title against Seth Rollins. Needless to say, this crowd just didn't seem to care about this one because everyone at the time was anticipating the return of Triple H to push the storyline of the game and Rollins forward, but surprisingly, that didn't happen. Chris Jericho got involved in the match, so that's to be expected. Since we didn't get the game as expected, WWE decided to have Stephanie McMahon push it by delaying sending the new referee out there until Owens was up behind Rollins and hit the pop-up powerbomb to retain Universal Championship. So instead of a big push for the angle, I guess WWE will slowly work the angle at a slow pace, which tells me that possibly the angle with Triple H and Rollins will peak at Survivor Series, Rick, since that's the next big pay-per-view, and it kind of makes sense to me to have it at that show.
I agree with you. I think the original idea before Rollins got hurt was they wanted to have the Triple H Seth Rollins at the last year's WrestleMania. But the problem, obviously, they dangled the carrot, so that showed me that they were trying to hold off. But obviously, for due to his injuries, as I said before, is not happening. So yeah, Survivor Series, I agree. As far as the Triple H showing up and not showing up, because of that anticipation, I think that's why they decided to say, you know what, no, we're going to make him wait. Now, there was, as you saw, we talked earlier before the show, that Triple H was seen in a video, post pay-per-view, where he kisses his wife, Stephanie, and they get, in a limousine and drive off. So that tells me that he was technically there. But again, I think right now at this point, Triple H should not be a part of management or anything because he is now in this semi-feud with Seth Rollins, which is going to be escalating over the next couple of months. That's my guess.
Overall score of Clash of Champions gets a 2 out of 5 with best match of the night going to Sami Zayn and Chris Jericho, honestly, with the Raw Women's Championship match a very close second. Worst match of the night goes to the Kickoff match with Nia Jax and Alicia Fox for reasons I've already stated. Rick, what about you? Your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Clash of Champions?
Well, I'm going to give it a 1.5. Nia Jax and the Alicia Fox, that was a given. You didn't even have to guess that, she didn't have a chance in hell. And I'm referring to Alicia Fox. Best match of the night, yeah, I gotta give my hands off to the Divas. I think the women's call, but I'll still call them Divas because they jump back and forth. It's like fucking a bad game of musical chairs. So, as far as Sasha Banks, you know, they were really saying, you know, there were people questioning her injury. Needless to say, now I see it as a work because they wouldn't have targeted her back otherwise. So that was a great match, and I'd have to say, yeah, the main event match was a close second. I would like to make a side note. Now, I see right now slowly Jericho and Owens having a feud split up and having a really nasty feud, which is going to bring Owens to that next level. Because if you think about it, Jericho has won several world titles, and now this new Universal title, which is a complete fucking joke. Obviously, he's going to want to go for that in the near future.
And the question is, when that happens, who makes the turn? Is it Jericho or is it Owens?
If I had to really ask, I would have to say Owens, because Owens, he's a great, wrestler. Jericho's always been the legend that comes back and pushes the younger talent forward. He's one of the very few that I've seen, and over the history of wrestling, that where they want to push the younger crew. So I'm going to say it to Owens. I think they might have to try a tease to see when he would come out as a babyface, the similar way they're doing it with Seth Rollins.
Well, anyway, guys and gals, on that note, what I want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on WWE Clash of Champions. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of WWE Clash of Champions? I want to hear what you guys out there think. Make sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Be sure you slam that like button like a champ. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Well, if you want to hang out over on our YouTube page, that's youtube.com/HWR show. We've been doing a lot of more in-the-moment shows where we just kind of talk about news that's happening right there at the moment. We do have a Raw reaction show over there, so check us out there. But if you want to join in the conversation, and for those of you who are listening, this is not a chat room for kids. This is more of an adult base. We have a really adult content humor, so to speak. That's over at facebook.com in the group sections under the name HWR chat room.
And needless to say, you have been warned. Don't forget to check me out every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Time, live here on WGS-TV with Sports Entertainment Tonight with Nick Fuquay and Mark the Smart Drahan. We're definitely going to be talking more in depth about Clash of the Champions and what they thought about the show and how it went. So that's every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. And as always, guys and gals, don't be a curtain jerker. Subscribe to WGS-TV for more from your friendly neighborhood wrestling gamer. So with that being said, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Kent, I am your friendly neighborhood wrestling gamer, and I'll see you at the next Warp Zone. Bye, guys. Again, it looked like
They erase the hate. I always thought we embraced the hate.
Yeah, we do. I think sometimes it's distorted. And it's like, if it's just a troll,